In your current role, how is your experience working with graduates, like fresh graduates? Do you think they lack something? Do you think like maybe the education system has evolved in that time, or is it still the same?
I think it's kind of a similar question almost to like how people learn in college. If like, some people come out of college and they come into the working world and it clicks relatively easily. They stumble, they have to figure out things in the first few months, but they're, roughly on their own, right? Like I showed up to Amazon and had, a couple mentors and people to help me out and stuff, but like largely was trying to independently teach myself how to work. And so I think there's definitely a good number of people that come out of college every year and struggle a little bit and figure it out and, are on their way just fine. But similarly, how there's people that can like study really well and maybe don't do well in the working world versus me like trying to study and not doing well in the exam. I think there's some issues for some folks that come out of college with this mindset of like everything's for an exam, everything has a due date, like very academic minded like that. And I get why. But yeah, there's a gap to jump from going from, you're studying to learn versus like you're learning to work so you can work and like produce something of value. Um, there's some folks I've mentored who have been very focused on like the academic side of like, oh, this interesting computer science thing. Like I found this paper, and I'm like, there's no time for that. Like we need to get this thing done like soon. Or like you're focusing on the wrong part of the problem. So, I think for those folks who struggle, it's more of a thing of they need to now learn in this more solely practical way. Like my work day to day, all the issues I work on, I would consider practical because they're my work, right? They're like what I have to get through to like get paid and grow and do well here.
You're solving a real problem,
Right.
right?
Like if we don't solve this, like customers don't pay us or they're unhappy or like there's real implications, not just like you got a bad letter, whatever that means on a test.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like your mom's mad at you. I don't know. So
Go read the book.
go read the book. Yeah, you failed the test. Go try again. Like there's no try again, right? Like if something fails in a business, it's not like, all right, guys, let's just regroup and give it another go. Like, you got to make it work. Um, and so, yeah, I think for folks transitioning from school where it's mostly focused on you and your results and how you perform, this is now focused on like your team needs to perform, your business needs to perform. How are you going to help perform, right? How do you make it
Hmm.
all come together? Um, and so like the tips there kind of once again are just focusing on like the practicality of it, trying to think of like, okay, the things I learned in college, how do they actually fit into what I've learned here? How can I map them? Like I remember this topic, like how do we do that topic in reality? For what I work in particular, which is networking, um, there's a lot of new grads who I get, and for my team, not necessarily folks I mentor directly, but like new hires on our team, and I'll say, okay, what do you know about networking? And a lot of them say like, oh, I took a class once, but like not a lot, which is a great sign. And I usually sit down with them or a group of them for like an hour or two and just whiteboard a bunch of how stuff works. Like both the fundamentals of like this is how networks function in a simple sense, and then here's how networking works here, and here's how a packet on this computer goes to this other computer, and very basic stuff. And like all of a sudden, like for a lot of them, it just clicks because now it's actually being taken and put in like something practical that now they need to know this to succeed. Yeah.
Do you also get people just like you who either ditched the college or never even went there?
Yeah.
And how do they compare to the graduates?
A lot of my more senior peers are folks without degrees. At least people maybe I've associated with that crowd, but um, there's a lot of more senior individuals at my level and more junior. Like at least at my job, like a lot of people from different backgrounds, people that have changed careers, whatever it is. You know, I think I've been lucky in my career to just work with people who like if they can do the job, they got the job. Right? Like every interview I do, I don't ask like where did you go to school or like we don't even talk about school. It's just like, hey, here's this problem. Can you solve it? How can we solve it together kind of thing. And same thing, like that topic, really, there's colleagues I have worked with for years that some of them, like, I don't even know. Did they go to college? Did they? I don't know. Like,
Then what happened to them when they were younger?
yeah, like it doesn't become, it's not apparent to put it that way.
Yeah.
It's more apparent when there's some new grad who did come out of college. because maybe they're talking about it a bunch, or like, oh, I remember in this class, and it's like, oh, welcome to the real world, Um, but yeah, usually, a year in, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, I mean, I think most people would find that in their career, regardless of their university, like after your first couple jobs or companies, like no one's like, where'd you go to college? You're like, I've been working for 5, 10 years. Like, why does it matter, right? None of that's
Yeah.
in memory anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think if people learn that way and it gets them a foot in the door and gets them their first, job or internship or whatever, like that's awesome. But I think there's other paths that can, in the end, or shortly after getting the first job, like get you to the same place.